Hi, I'm Adelpha. My family smiled at my birthday dinner, handed me a candle from the clearance bin, and said, just the close ones, when I asked about their upcoming plans. 2 days later, they posted selfies from Barcelona, the very city I had dreamed about for years, planned for them down to the cafe table. They used my name to book the hotel, my points to fly there, and my ID to check in. They didn't just leave me out, they built the trip on top of me, and when I confronted them, they cropped me out of photos and deleted me from the family group chat. Now they say I went silent, but what if silence wasn't my absence? But they're warning. I knew better than to expect balloons or a homemade cake, but I didn't think I'd walk into my own birthday dinner and feel like a guest who showed up to the wrong table. The restaurant was dimly lit, quiet for a Saturday night, just a few tables scattered with couples and small families. I had picked this place weeks ago, not too loud, not too fancy. I thought it fit the occasion. 31 isn't a milestone, but it isn't nothing either. They arrived late. Sable first, her heels clicking like she wanted people to turn their heads. Leora followed, already mid-scroll on her phone. Then Mom, Velda, who barely glanced up before settling into her seat and fixing her napkin like we were at some board meeting instead of my birthday. "Oh, is this the place?" Sable said, scanning the room like it disappointed her. "I thought we were meeting at Olive Garden." I smiled. "Nope, here, the reservation's under my name." Velda exhaled softly, as if the whole thing had been sprung on her. "Sweetheart, you know we're not the party type, but this is nice." She looked around, already signaling the waiter. The server arrived and asked about drinks. No one asked me if I had a favorite. Sable ordered a white wine. Lyora asked for a mocktail. I got water, which somehow felt more honest. The small talk drifted into things I wasn't part of. Sable's new manager, Leora's yoga studio drama. They tossed laughs back and forth like beach balls I wasn't invited to touch. I nodded along, occasionally throwing in a comment. It bounced off every surface but their ears. I tried not to stare at the cake when it came. Store-bought, 3 roses of icing smeared on top. No name, no candle. I felt silly even noticing. The gift bag they handed me had a candle inside, lavender, labeled Peaceful Moments. Still had the clearance sticker on the bottom. "That smell's supposed to reduce anxiety," Velda said as I opened it. I smiled. "Perfect." I reached for a second slice of cake just to fill the silence. That's when I heard it. A murmur. Sable leaned closer to Mom, whispering. I caught just a few words. "Leaving Wednesday. She doesn't know yet." I looked up. "What's Wednesday?" They both froze for a beat too long. "Oh," Velda said casually. "We're just doing a little getaway, just for close ones." I blinked. "Where?" "Barcelona," Sable said, checking her phone like it owed her an exit. "It's kind of last minute." "Barcelona?" I asked, my voice lower than I expected. "You're all going?" "Yeah," Leora chimed in, finally lifting her head. "It's been a crazy year. We needed to decompress." I let the silence hang. I wasn't sure what stunned me more, the fact they were going, or the fact that I hadn't even been considered. "You wouldn't want the chaos," Mom added, swirling her wine. "You know how trips get. It's better with just the close ones." Just the close ones. I smiled. Or at least, I did something with my face that felt like a smile. No one seemed to notice either way. "You know what they say," I said, folding my napkin. "Family cuts the deepest when they're holding the knife with a smile." Leora raised an eyebrow. "Is that one of your quotes again?" Sable laughed. "She always has one ready." The waiter returned with the check before I could answer. Mom reached for her purse but stopped short. "You got this one, right?" I did. I always did. And I did it silently. After dinner, they left first. Sable said she had to pack. Leora had an early class. Mom kissed my cheek like she was proud of the work I'd done to plan my own underwhelming evening. I walked home, candle in hand, steps slower than usual. The streets were still warm from the sun, the kind of night that should have made me feel lighter. Instead, I opened my phone and checked Instagram, not sure what I was even looking for. There it was. A fresh post from Sable, a boomerang of 3 suitcases being loaded into the back of an Uber. Caption: Barcelona, here we come. Just us, the close ones. Hashtag family first. In the comments, Leora had added 3 airplane emojis. Mom had commented, "We're overdue." I stared at the screen until it blurred. I didn't even know they had passports renewed. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I made tea, opened a book I'd already read 3 times, even dimmed all the lights in my apartment like that would trick my body into believing the day was done. But it wasn't. I sat on the edge of my couch, barefoot, knees pulled in like I was bracing for a storm that had already passed. My phone was still in my hand. The screen glowed dimly in the dark. I reopened the post. Again. The same photo. The same 3 faces I'd seen since I was born. All seated at a sunlit cafe in a country I had spent years dreaming of visiting. That wasn't just any cafe. That was my cafe. The one I'd pinned to my vision board 3 years ago, after a late-night scroll through Pinterest led me down a rabbit hole of tiled sidewalks and Gaudí balconies. That exact angle, left corner view of the plaza, the little mosaic table, the red awning behind them, I had printed it, circled it, and taped it next to a photo of Park Güell and a journal entry titled, "Someday." I got up, walked into the hall closet, and pulled out the dusty corkboard I hadn't looked at in over a year. There it was, still pinned there. April 3rd, 2021. Written in black Sharpie. They were sitting inside my dream, and they hadn't said a word. Not on my birthday, not in passing, not even in a fake, "you should come next time" kind of way. I leaned against the closet door, vision blurred, but not from tears. This wasn't sadness. This was something uglier, disbelief wrapped in familiarity, like finding out the break-in was done by someone with your house key. I walked back to the living room, opened my laptop, and pulled up their social media profiles. I didn't even have to dig. It was all right there. Public. Proud. Sable had posted a reel, slow motion of champagne flutes clinking under that same red awning. The caption read, "Finally here, with the right crew, no drama, just peace." The right crew. Velda had left a comment below. She needed this break, deserved it after all the mess lately. I stared at that sentence, reading it over and over again until the words stopped making sense. Was I the mess? Had I become a footnote in their story? Leora reposted the reel and added her own caption, "Barcelona, where your soul meets your silence." Funny, that was the exact phrase I had written in my now-deleted travel blog 2 years ago, word for word. I remembered because I'd cried when I wrote it, back when I still believed words could build bridges. I closed the browser. My hands were steady now, not calm, just steady. I opened Google Maps, typed in the name of the cafe. It came up in 0.3 seconds, like it had been waiting for me. There it was, street view, same chairs, same sidewalk. But now I couldn't unsee their faces overlaid on it. The photo, the moment, the space, they'd claimed it. My dream now belonged to their memory. I got up, walked over to the fridge and pulled off the printout I'd taped up a year ago. The photo of the cafe. I stared at it. My handwriting was still faint at the bottom corner. "This is where I'll feel whole again." I tore it in half, then again, and again. I sat back down and opened my journal. Not the one with affirmations and soft thoughts. The other one. The one I started after Thanksgiving last year, when I first noticed the looks Velda gave me when I spoke too long, or when Sable replied to my group texts 48 hours late like she was doing me a favor. "They're not just on my trip," I wrote. "They're walking through a dream they didn't build, and I wasn't invited." I clicked the screenshot folder and began saving everything. Every comment, every tag, every timestamp. That's when I started collecting proof. 2 mornings after my birthday dinner, I found myself sitting cross-legged on the floor of my living room, laptop open, a dozen tabs scattered across the screen. I'd created a folder the night before, titled it, "Not Forgotten." At first, it was just a dumping ground for screenshots, the cafe post, the champagne video, the hashtag-riddled captions. But the more I clicked, the more I realized how deliberate everything had been. The alert came just as I was organizing image timestamps. A soft ping from my phone. New voicemail. It was from Sable. I hesitated before playing it. She rarely called unless she wanted something, or wanted to avoid saying it in person. The audio clicked on. "Just don't tell her," she whispered, like she was leaning away from the mic. "She'll cry again, and we'll never hear the end of it." Velda's voice followed, calm, clipped. "It's better this way. She makes things heavy. We need lightness." I didn't flinch. My stomach didn't twist. I didn't cover my mouth in shock. That would have been 3 birthdays ago. I had cried before, sure, but not out of weakness, out of hope. Hope that I was still part of something. Hope that I hadn't imagined the disconnect. But this was confirmation. They knew. They planned around me. And they were proud of it. I hit save on the voicemail, dropped it into the folder. Then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I searched my inbox. There it was, April 2nd, 2021. Subject line, "My dream trip, if we ever do it together." It was an email I'd written to the family group thread, complete with an attached PDF. I had mapped out an entire 7-day Barcelona itinerary, hotel suggestions, Gaudí architecture tour, cafe spots, even a dinner reservation at a place called La Plata. I opened the file. Hotel Miramar, same as theirs. Tapas tour route. Identical. Even the brunch cafe with the red awning. They were sitting at the exact table I had circled in the photo. They didn't plan a trip. They copied mine. And they didn't forget to invite me. They chose not to. The realization didn't come like a punch. It was more like standing still while the room tilted around you. I'd handed them my joy, thinking I was giving a gift, and they'd taken it, without credit, without care. I added the email to the folder and typed a note beneath it. Submitted April 2nd, 2021. Ignored. Then I opened my voice recorder. "This is Adelpha Palmer," I said into the mic, steady. "I'm documenting this for my own clarity." I paused, then continued. "They used my map. They walked my path, and left me off the guest list." I stopped recording, saved it, but I wasn't done. An old shared Google Drive folder caught my eye. We used to plan holiday potlucks in it, back when they still pretended to coordinate with me. I clicked out of curiosity, not expectation. Inside, a new folder had appeared. Trip Recaps, BCN. I clicked. Dozens of photos loaded. Some I'd already seen reposted on Instagram, but then I found it. A scanned document formatted like a checklist. Flights, hotels, booking codes, contacts. At the bottom, scrawled in my own handwriting from that 2021 email draft, "Pack light, walk often, soak in everything." They hadn't even bothered to retype it. They printed it. My words, my planning, my dream, all without me. 3 days had passed since that dinner, since the candle, since the moment Velda leaned across the table and said, "Just for close ones, like I was a forgotten coworker instead of her daughter. That morning, I sat at my desk, my laptop open, a half-full mug of coffee gone cold beside it. The folder, not forgotten, stared back at me, thick now with screenshots, saved posts, time-stamped files. What started as documentation was quickly becoming evidence. I reopened the shared family Google Drive. We hadn't used it in a while, not since Velda's birthday brunch planning 2 years ago, but Sable never changed habits. She just renamed folders and hoped no one noticed. And there it was. Trip logistics, final confirmed. I clicked, a spreadsheet loaded. My name sat at the top of a column labeled Rewards Program Member, Primary. Below it, hotel booking codes, flight numbers, even the Wi-Fi passwords for Hotel Miramar. Every cell was clean, organized. Planned well before my birthday. They didn't just plan this trip without me, they used me to plan it. Tucked into a notes section on the second sheet was the kicker. Use Adelpha's member login for hotel perks. I stared at it, stunned by the brazenness. They hadn't even tried to hide it. No aliases, no effort. My login, my identity, my points. You can fake a lot online, but not metadata. I scrolled back to the creation date, March 9th. Weeks before they sat across from me, smiling politely, thanking me for choosing the restaurant. They had the bags packed before I even made the reservation. They didn't just plan a trip, I said aloud. They planned around me. A notification buzzed on my screen. Facebook. Leora had posted a photo, the three of them, mid-laugh, outside a tapas bar in El Raval. The caption read, "Finally doing things our way. No drama, no dead weight." I didn't blink. I reread it. No drama, no dead weight. The same phrasing I'd once used to describe my decision to cut out a toxic client, now weaponized against me. In the comments, someone wrote, "Family trips are best when it's just the real ones." And Velda? She liked it. A little thumbs up. A silent cosign of the message. Of the erasure. I leaned back, letting the weight of that reality sink in. I wasn't excluded. I was strategically removed. Returning to the spreadsheet, I dug deeper. It wasn't just the bookings. They had used my airline rewards number too. 12,000 miles. Gone. Miles I'd earned traveling for work, saving receipts, booking red-eyes to meet impossible deadlines. I opened my airline app to confirm. Redeemed. Flight 238 to Barcelona. I wasn't invited, but I was booked. Then I checked my email and found it. Sable's name as the secondary contact on the reservation. She had used her email but listed me as the traveler. Attached to it, my rewards ID, my birthday, my preferred seating. I sat there, not angry, at least not the kind of angry that shouts or throws things. This was a cold, even anger, the kind that doesn't boil, it freezes. I opened my bank app, checked my travel-linked credit card. At first, nothing stood out. Then I saw it, charges from a boutique in Elborn. Currency, EUR. Category, retail apparel. Amount, $412.86. Then another, $276.15 from a spa, and another, $1,162.43. Hotel Miramar. My phone buzzed again. Text from the card provider. Unusual activity detected on your account. Charges in EUR. Please confirm. I didn't respond immediately. I just stared at it, heart calm, fingers still. They didn't take me, but they took everything I left unguarded. The morning after the bank text, I woke up with a tightness in my chest, not from fear, but from precision, like a surgeon right before the first incision. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to document everything, line by line, click by click. I opened my travel rewards account. 2 hotel bookings confirmed under my name. A spa package at Hotel Intercontinental, scheduled for Oslo Palmer. Airline miles drained. I didn't panic. I took screenshots. Then I called the hotel. "Hi, I just need to confirm a reservation under my name," I said, calm, clear. "Certainly," the woman on the other end replied. "Can you confirm the last 4 digits of your passport?" I gave them. She paused. "Yes. You're listed as the primary on a 5-night stay. Check-in was last Thursday. Has my ID been scanned?" "Yes, ma'am. We have a copy on file for check-in verification." I stared at the wall. "Thank you," I said, and ended the call. They used my name. They used my passport. They scanned my life into their vacation like I was just a QR code. I opened the family folder on our old shared drive. I remembered uploading my passport photo there years ago, back when we were planning a cruise we never took, back when trust didn't come with footnotes. That image, my face, my birth date, my government ID, was now part of a file I never authorized. My backup travel card, the one I never carried but had linked to Apple Pay just in case. Charges were pouring in from Europe. $610 at a rooftop lounge, $289 for wellness treatments. I'd been invisible at dinner, erased from group chats, cropped out of family photos. But when it came to perks and upgrades and points, I was front and center. So this was never about forgetting me. They remembered everything except my humanity. I opened an old email from Velda. Subject line, "Our financial genius." She had written it after I'd helped her sort out a tax mess. "Thanks for setting up the accounts," she wrote. "We can always count on you to bring structure to the chaos." Structure. I wasn't family. I was infrastructure. I searched my inbox for other receipts, found another gem from 2 years ago, Velda's voice still echoing in my head from that time we spent 4 hours on the phone during her credit freeze debacle. "You're the one we can count on," she said back then. "You're always so organized." She meant it, not as a compliment, but as a label, not daughter, not sister, function. I closed my inbox and opened a blank Word document, titled it, Case Notes. I began typing, every charge, every booking, every timestamp, every line connected by one common thread, me. Then I picked up the phone and called the credit card company. "This is Adelpha Palmer. I need to report identity misuse. Charges were made without my authorization by individuals known to me." I froze the account, filed the first report. Then I opened my email and wrote myself a note. If they want me silent, they've miscalculated. I don't yell, I build cases. I leaned back, took a deep breath. There was no need for confrontation yet, no need for a scene. That's when my phone buzzed again. Instagram. Sable had tagged me in a story. I tapped to view it. Park Güell, bright skies, wind in her hair. She spun slowly in a circle while Velda filmed. Text overlay. "Thanks to our travel fairy for making it all happen, Hatch blessed." They were thanking me for the booking, for the points, for the silence. And that's when I started acting like the ghost they wanted, except this ghost had internet access and legal intent. The sun hadn't even broken the skyline when I sat at my kitchen table, coffee untouched, laptop open. 5 days had passed since the dinner, 4 since the credit card pinged. And now, I was done being the passive shadow behind their glossy captions. I pulled up my bank portal first. The charges were still there, pending, not yet posted. Good. I had a narrow window to act. The hotel line rang twice before a voice answered in crisp English, thick with a Catalan accent. "Hotel Intercontinental, how can I assist you?" "This is Adelpha Palmer," I said evenly. "I need to report a reservation fraudulently made under my name. I have documentation." There was a pause. a shift in tone. "Ma'am, can you verify the reservation ID?" I did. She clicked a few times. "Yes, we do have this under your name. We have a scanned passport on file matching your ID." "Which was never provided with permission," I said. "I need this flagged immediately. I have not traveled. I am not in Barcelona, and I am not authorizing any charges." She cleared her throat. "I'll connect you to our fraud and security department." 10 minutes later, I had filed a case. 15 minutes after that, I'd logged into my travel booking platform and flagged every flight, hotel, and tour booked using my credentials. A rep named Mike confirmed what I already suspected. "Yeah, looks like the rewards account tied to your name booked 5 seats on the same flight, same hotel, 1 suite, 4 guests. Block every user profile that matches the names Velda, Sable, and Leora," I said. He hesitated. "Do you want to add a note to the account?" "Yes," I replied. "Add unauthorized use of private information by family. Freeze account permanently." I hung up. My fingers didn't shake. I didn't blink, just logged out, stood up, poured the now cold coffee down the sink, and made tea instead. From the corner of the kitchen, my phone buzzed. Instagram. I opened the app, not out of curiosity, but because it was time. I created a new story, black background, white text. Silence consent, no hashtags, no tags, just a full-screen message that would vanish in 24 hours, but say everything it needed to. Less than 5 minutes passed. Text from Velda. "Sable, what's this about? We need to talk." I didn't delete their messages. I didn't respond. I didn't even open the thread. Instead, I sat by the window, watching the first sliver of sunlight creep up the edge of my neighbor's roof. 9 missed calls, then 15. 22. They rang one after another like some sort of family fire drill, except I wasn't answering, not this time, because I knew they weren't calling out of guilt. They were calling because the perks were slipping, the spa credits were gone, the flight home, canceled, the suite they'd posed in, sipping kava and pretending peace. Locked out. They had planned the trip like I was a tool. A password, a points vault, and I let them think that silence meant permission. Not anymore. I took a deep breath. My apartment smelled like lemon tea and victory. Another ping. But this time, it wasn't from them. Travel wallet alert. Your account was accessed from an unrecognized device. I clicked the notification. Inside the app, a single message waited under the new activity. "Why are you doing this?" "Leora." I stared at it. And that's when I realized they never expected me to fight back. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. No calls, no new alerts, no emails from banks or platforms, just silence, thick and waiting. I thought I'd feel peace after freezing their getaway. Instead, I felt like the air was holding its breath. I sat down on the couch, pulled the blanket over my knees, and opened Facebook out of habit. I wasn't looking for anything. Or maybe I was. I just didn't know what it was until it hit me. Barcelona Bliss. That was the album title, posted by Sable, naturally. A curated carousel of their curated vacation. Leora laughing with a cocktail, Velda in a sun hat, Donna posing like she belonged to us. But one photo made me stop cold. La Boqueria Market, the same place I'd circled on my old travel plan. A group shot in front of the fruit stands, everyone in focus, perfectly framed. Except something felt off. The edge of the frame was too clean, too sharp. I squinted and saw the uneven spacing between Leora and Sable, a missing shape. A gap where someone had once stood. Me. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Kala, my younger cousin. "Oops, meant to send this to Mom." Attached, the original photo. Uncropped, And there I was, on the edge, holding a smoothie, smiling too earnestly, still dressed in my usual muted tones, standing just enough apart to be easy to crop. They hadn't just planned the trip without me. They brought me, then erased me. I didn't reply. I downloaded the photo, saved it, and quietly clicked Remove Tag from every picture in the album. They didn't uninvite me from the trip, I whispered, staring at my own face. They edited me out of history. I didn't post about it, didn't call Kala, I didn't even message the family. But when I opened our family group chat, Velda's family squad, it was gone. No, not gone. You've been removed from this group. No warning, no message, not even a middle school style "we need space" note. Just avoid. And a new notification from Leora's story. Cut the noise. Keep the circle small. I didn't cry. I didn't laugh either. I just sat there, still as stone, and thought, this is how they say goodbye now. In hashtags and silent deletions. I screenshot both the cropped photo and the "You've been removed" notification. Saved them to a new folder titled Erased but Not Forgotten. Then I went to the printer, pulled out the untouched version of the group photo Kala had accidentally sent, and pinned it to my fridge. Above it, I taped a sticky note. Keep receipts. They'll need them later. The longer I looked at that printout, the more I realized I wasn't even mad. Not anymore. I was methodical. I was focused. I was not the drama. I was the consequence. I opened my laptop, cracked my knuckles, and pulled up a browser. I typed into the search bar, "How to file for digital impersonation and identity misuse in California." And as the results loaded, I whispered to myself, if they wanted to delete me, I'd give them a reason to remember my name. The day after I froze the bookings, my phone wouldn't stop lighting up. By noon, I had 12 missed calls. By sunset, 21. By the time I went to bed, it had buzzed so many times the battery finally gave up. None of the messages said, "We're sorry." Not a single one said, "We were wrong." They said things like, "This is a misunderstanding," and "Let's talk." Velda left a voicemail that started with, "I don't know what you're trying to prove," and ended with, "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Classic. By the third day, I had a system. I didn't respond. I documented screenshots, transcripts, saved voicemails, a timeline down to the hour. I kept a running total of charges I wouldn't be able to reverse: spa fees, partial hotel cancellations, international transaction losses. When it passed the $4,000 mark, I drafted the email. Simple, direct. Subject: Unrecoverable charges. Body: Velda. This is to formally notify you of the outstanding balance resulting from the unauthorized use of my travel credentials and financial assets. The total, $4,087.73. Due within 72 hours. No negotiation. Adelpha. I attached the spreadsheet, the screenshots, and a PDF of the hotel's confirmation of fraud. Then I hit send. Later that afternoon, Sable texted. Sable. Mom says we're meeting tonight at 6. You should come. Let's fix this like family. I didn't reply. I got in the car and drove to their house, 20 minutes early, parked across the street, watched the living room lights flick on, saw silhouettes moving inside, Velda pacing, Sable gesturing, Lyora on her phone. I walked up the driveway and stood at the door for a moment, listening. "She won't go legal," Sable was saying. "She never does. She's just emotional." Velda. "It's like this every time something doesn't go her way." "She makes it big," Leora added with a sigh. "We didn't even think she'd notice. She never used that card anyway." I knocked once, then pushed the door open. They turned like a scene in a sitcom. 3 frozen stares. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. I didn't say a word, just walked to the coffee table and placed the folder I'd prepared. Inside, receipts, dates, screenshots, the ID scan used at the hotel, and a printout of the email thread between Sable and the concierge that mentioned me as the admin. Then I said it. "I'm not emotional," I said, staring straight at Velda. "I'm itemized." No one laughed. Velda blinked slowly. Leora looked down. Sable folded her arms, but said nothing. I sat down, opened the folder, and pushed the spreadsheet across the table. "This is what you owe me. $4,087.73. 3 days to pay it." Then I pressed send on the legal complaint, civil and criminal. Leora finally spoke. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." I cut her off. "I'm not here for guilt. I'm here for payment." They stared at me like I was a stranger, like they didn't know who had just walked into their living room. Maybe they didn't. Maybe for the first time, I didn't let them. I stood, picked up the folder, and walked out. No one followed. I got in the car, started the engine, and just as I was pulling out of the driveway, my phone buzzed again. Bank transfer notification, $4,087.73 from Velda Palmer. No subject line, no note. That wasn't an apology. That was hush money. I don't do hush. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, watching the digits of my bank balance refresh. The transfer had gone through. The full amount, $4,087.73, wired from Velda Palmer. No subject line, no memo, no message. Just a transaction, clean and sterile. They sent the money, but not a word, not a call, not an apology. I leaned back and glanced at the sticky note still taped above the photo on my fridge. "Keep receipts." That photo, uncropped, unedited, still stared back at me. Me, in the corner of the frame, not smiling anymore. I opened Instagram out of habit and found nothing new from them. Just old posts now carrying a different weight, the same grins, the same captions. But now they looked like decoys. Then a ping. Kala. A message flashed on the screen. "You didn't deserve this. I'm sorry." Before I could respond, the message vanished. Unsent. I took a screenshot, saved it in the folder. Didn't reply. Even the ones who saw the truth were too afraid to stand in it, and maybe I didn't blame her. It was easier to pretend nothing happened, easier to not get pulled into what they'd written off as drama, but silence was a choice, and her deleting the message said more than her sending it. Later that afternoon, I walked to the mailbox at the end of my block. I wasn't expecting anything. Bills, probably. Maybe junk. What I found instead was a postcard. Glossy, bright, Park Güell in full sun, the mosaic bench curling along the edge of the view. Familiar, staged, no return address, no name, just a message written in clean, feminine script. "Hope you find peace too. The chosen few." I held it between my fingers for a long minute, studying the pen pressure, the casual cruelty of it. It wasn't a truce. It wasn't kindness. It was condescension wrapped in faux warmth. I walked back inside, placed the postcard next to my laptop, and flipped it over. On the back, in small block letters, I wrote one word: evidence. That card didn't make me feel grief. It made me feel ready. That evening, I opened a blank document and titled it Statement. Not for the courts, not for a blog, not for them. For me, they erased me with postcards and cropped pictures. I'd answer with presence. I started writing. No bullet points. Just words that had lived in my body for months, maybe years. I wasn't doing this to be heard by them. I was doing it to remind myself I had a voice that didn't need permission. I detailed the timeline, the screenshots, the call logs, the silence, the transfer, the withdrawal of affection disguised as diplomacy. My phone buzzed again. For once, I didn't expect it to be them. And it wasn't. It was an email. Subject: Just saw your story. From Inez Hastings. I hadn't seen that name since college. The message was short. I never said it, but I saw how they treated you. You weren't wrong. That message wasn't deleted. That one I saved. It had been a quiet week, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel the need to fill the silence. No phone calls, no emails, no one ringing my doorbell with fake tears or stale excuses. Just the steady hum of my life returning to itself. That Thursday night, I sat by the window with a glass of water, reading the email from my credit card company for the third time. All fraudulent activity has been flagged. You are no longer financially tied to these accounts. I exhaled, slow, quiet, but full. The kind of breath you don't realize you've been holding until it finally leaves you. I moved to the next task on my checklist. Log into Travel Wallet. A new banner blinked across the top of the page. Your profile has been secured. All associated names removed. I changed my password, deleted the saved logins, logged out of every linked device. It was strange how light my fingers felt. I used to manage everything for them. Flights, hotel points, bill reminders, passwords. Now, they could manage without me, and I didn't owe them another tutorial. In my final folder, I archived the last remaining document, Sable's email requesting my login just for backup. That file was the last thread. I clicked and dragged it into a subfolder labeled Closed. Then I uninstalled the app. The real moment of peace didn't come from deleting files. It came a few minutes later when I checked my notifications. I had been tagged in a photo on Instagram by a mutual friend of Sable's. I almost didn't click it, but something told me to. It was a cafe in Barcelona, the same one. Sable sat at the corner table, a cappuccino in one hand, her sunglasses perched like a crown. She was smiling. Of course she was, but what caught my eye was the bench behind her. In the lower left corner, just barely in the frame, someone had carved into the wood, "This is where I'll go someday. AP." I froze, not from panic, not from pain, from clarity. That was my handwriting. I had etched those words during a solo trip to Spain almost 6 years ago, long before I thought to bring anyone else into that dream. Before I gave them access to my travel files, my passwords, my routes, they had taken the trip. But I had left the mark. I screenshot the photo, not to post, not to share, just to save. I dropped it into the final folder and titled it legacy.jpg. You don't have to be loud to leave a legacy, just present and intentional. I opened a browser, cleared my history, then closed it again. There was nothing left to check. I opened a drawer, pulled out my passport application, and began filling it out for renewal. Not because I had travel plans, but because the last one had passed through too many hands that weren't mine. This one would stay with me. Later that night, I packed a weekend bag, not for Barcelona, not for some curated aesthetic escape, but for a lake cabin 2 hours north. Just a few books, a sweater, and silence that belonged to me. I stood in the doorway, looked around my apartment, and for once, didn't double-check the stove or the lights. I just left. Before I got into the car, my phone lit up. "Velda, we never meant to hurt you. Can we talk?" I didn't answer. I let the phone ring, then I turned it off. The trip they took was over. Mine was just beginning. The cabin smelled like cedar and pine. No synthetic lavender candles, no overly clean linen sprays, just the honest, grounded scent of trees and wood and stillness. I wrapped my sweater tighter around me and stepped out onto the porch with my mug. The coffee had long gone lukewarm, but I didn't care. This wasn't about comfort, it was about presence. Lake Tahoe sat quietly beyond the tree line, unmoved by anyone's need to talk, explain, or apologize. Some peace is earned. Some you choose. This? I had chosen. No social media, no notifications, no ringtones or red badges tugging at the edge of my thoughts. Just the birds, wind, and the sound of my own breath, uninterrupted. It was the kind of silence that didn't need defending. I sat on the porch steps, sipped slowly, and let my mind wander, not to the past, but through it. I thought about how they used to call me dramatic, sensitive, too much. But that morning, I felt still, not heavy, not guarded, just still. I returned inside, opened my laptop to download a few files before I deleted the old drive completely. Instead, my mouse hovered over an email folder I hadn't touched in years. College, personal. Curiosity got the best of me. I clicked, second from the top. A message from Inez Hastings, dated 3 years ago. Subject line, "Wish I'd said something sooner." The body read, "I saw how they treated you. You were never the problem. You were just inconvenient to their comfort, and I didn't have the courage to call it out. I'm sorry." I read it 3 times, then again, aloud, 3 years later, and that line still hit like a truth I needed someone else to say out loud. I closed the laptop without deleting a thing. Outside, the air had shifted. Colder now. A breeze strong enough to nudge the postcard I had taped to the inside cabin window. Park Güell, still smiling in its false cheer. I took it down, walked to the fire pit, tossed it in, unburned, but bent. I struck a match, watched the edges curl and blacken, the ink blur into nothing. It didn't deserve to be recycled. It deserved to be unmade. Forgiveness isn't required for closure. Sometimes clarity is enough. I sat back down with my journal. I didn't lose my family, I wrote. I lost the illusion that I had one who knew me. Packing was easy. A sweater, a worn book, the photo I'd asked the cabin host to take, me standing by the lake at sunrise. Alone, strong. I left a copy framed on the shelf before I locked the cabin behind me. The drive back was quiet. The kind of quiet you feel in your bones when the last trace of resentment has burned itself out. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need them to hurt. I just needed them to be out of the way. An hour into the drive, my phone, silent all weekend, lit up. Voicemail from Velda. I didn't play it at first, let it sit there like a stone in my pocket. At the next rest stop, I pulled over, cut the engine, and hit play. No greeting, just the sound of wind, footsteps, and then her voice, distant, like she thought the phone wasn't recording yet. "We thought you'd be back by now." That was it. No name, no plea, no ownership. They thought I'd be back, but I never said I was returning. They just assumed silence was a pause, not an exit. I returned to Sacramento on a Thursday, just as the sky turned the kind of pale gray that made everything feel suspended in time. I didn't come with bags. I didn't come for closure. I came to close. The house looked the same from the outside. Velda's carefully manicured hedges, the bird bath she never filled, Sable's SUV in the driveway. But I wasn't here to notice details. I was here to deliver them. I stepped through the gate without knocking, my lawyer walking behind me, the notary beside him. No pleasantries, just a folder, black leather, tightly zipped. They were all seated in the living room when I walked in. Sable's legs crossed like she was moderating a panel. Leora clutching a tea mug like it had something warm to say. Velda stood up quickly, eyes wide, already performing. "This doesn't have to be this way," she started, hands raised halfway. I didn't look at her. I handed the notary the documents. He placed them on the coffee table without saying a word. Cease and desist. Formal financial and digital separation. Identity misuse claim. All notarized. All final. I looked straight at her now. It already is, I said. You wrote this story. I'm just filing it. No one spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was necessary. I left the documents there and turned to leave, but before I reached the door, I paused. By the way, I added, I sent a letter to the rest of the family this morning. Receipts, timelines, screenshots, no opinions, just truth. Sable flinched. Velda's expression didn't crack, but her hands did, clenched tighter at her sides. You didn't have to humiliate us, Velda said quietly. I looked over my shoulder. I didn't, I said. You did. I just removed the stage curtains. That night, the family group chat imploded. Not in anger, in absence. One by one, members left the thread. Some messaged me privately with neutral words like, thank you, or, I had no idea. Others didn't reach out at all. But none defended them. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my accounts. Bank, utilities, shared subscriptions, signed out, closed profiles, unlinked emails. I removed myself from the emergency contact list on Velda's medical forms. It felt surgical, like excising a tumor that had once masqueraded as belonging. Then I sent one final text to the family thread. This number will no longer be in service for you. Please direct all inquiries to your own conscience. Then I deleted the thread. The next week, I received an email from a journalist running a digital piece called When Family Gaslights You: Stories of Quiet Power. A friend had recommended me. I agreed to an interview, anonymously. The article went live the following month. My story was the opening vignette. No names, just the truth. It was shared across forums, DM'd, saved, emailed. People read it and saw themselves. They thought I disappeared, but I just made sure the right people finally saw me.